Welcome to the FNO InsurTech Podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsurTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome to the first 2025 edition of FNO InsurTech. In case this is the first time you've ever heard our podcast, which is entirely possible.
Yeah.
I am still Rob Beller.
That's great.
That much I can remember still. And he is Lee Boyd.
Pretty long pause there, but
Well,
thank you.
I had to remember what your name was.
I actually have a name tag in the bottom of the screen there, but it's just Lee. But
Well,
yeah.
that's what really messed me up. See, now on my screen, which of course you don't see, it has my full name. On yours, it just says Lee.
Well, I look at yours and it says Rob Beller host, and mine just says Lee.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
don't even have
Sorry,
that.
Lee. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, Happy New Year, Rob. Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Happy New Year to you. 2025. So our first podcast was like on this date
Mhm.
in 2019.
Right.
So 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So for 6 full years, we are now in our 7th
Starting our 7th year.
podcast year.
How
What do you think
insane
of
is
that?
that?
What do
I
you think of that?
never thought we'd be here. I thought COVID was going to take it out. I thought acquisitions was going to take it out.
Mhm.
I thought
Retirement.
mostly retirement was going to take it out. And guess what? We're still kicking.
Here
We're
we are.
still kicking.
Damn. We're like a bad penny.
Man,
You can't get
how
rid of
crazy
us.
is that? In fact, I was talking to someone today. Someone I talk to a lot who works here at Alacrity. And I was talking to him about the podcast. And finally she stopped and said, "What? You do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, yes, I do a podcast. We have a podcast. We're on a
Wow.
podcast." So there's still those new people who this is going to be their first year that they get to hear us.
That's right. I mean, maybe they're new to the insurance world
Mhm.
and they just happen to hear of us. Maybe they push the wrong button and touch the FNO InsurTech button by mistake, which I
Well,
think is how we get most of our listeners, by mistake.
I think it is. I think
Uh-huh.
it is. It's also dinner table with friends. You're having conversation like, "Oh, I do a podcast." Like, "Oh, I want to listen." I'm like, "No, you don't."
No,
But
you
if you
don't.
want to subscribe, that's great.
I had that
Um,
happen just today.
Did you
Just
really?
today. Just today. I was in an appointment and we're chatting. I'm chatting with the person that I was meeting with. And I said, "Oh yeah, I do a podcast." She said, "You do?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Your enthusiasm, it way outweighs
Yeah.
the truth of the fact that I do a podcast."
Here's the thing you'll notice. People will say, "You do a podcast? That's awesome. I want to hear the podcast." And they never follow it back up with, "I listened to the podcast." Most of the time they're like, "Oh, I'm still trying to get around to that."
Do you think other podcasters start their podcast by
By
degrading
degrading ours. But
their
ours
own
hits.
work?
The people sitting across from me at the pizza parlor on a Friday night, they don't want to listen. But the
No.
people who do listen to the podcast, it's for them. It's
Yeah.
for you, the listener. If you're truly listening to our podcast, we do it for you.
We
We
do it
know
for
it's a small niche, but we do it for
specific
you.
audience. Specific audience. And for those 2 people out there in our specific audience, thank
We
you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for listening to us. We
We've
appreciate
dedicated
it.
hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of hours to you.
And we're looking to 2025 to be another big year.
Dude, we're going
retrenching.
international this year. We're going international.
We are.
We're going and we're going international early.
London.
Yeah, we're going to be going to the ITC London conference.
The ITC London conference, which is, I believe, starts the 26th.
Yeah, I believe it's the 26th through the 27th in London.
In London, and put on by ITC, and invitation only.
Yeah.
And when they weren't looking, we stole 2 invites. And
jumped in there.
And so if you are going to ITC London, please come say hi to us because we'll
Yeah.
be there.
we'll be there. We're looking forward to meeting everybody that we know from there, seeing you and then meeting many others. It's a great
Absolutely.
opportunity for anybody in that area to learn more about InsurTech and what's going on. And
Right.
it's a build up. It's a build up to their bigger one that they'll have a little bit later in May there in Amsterdam,
Right.
ITC
And
Europe, I believe.
where we hope to be as well.
Yeah. So
And
this year has some great things, right? We're in our 7th year and
mhm.
we're looking to go big. So we can't wait to go with everybody here.
and if we cross your path at any point in time, please come say hi to us and meet
Please.
2 real God's honest podcasters. We both have our podcaster cards,
Badges.
don't we? That and $7.50 will get you a tall mocha latte at Starbucks.
Man, it's gotten expensive, hasn't it?
Well, I live in California, man.
Yeah, you do.
Everything's higher here. So, all that said, let's talk about today's episode.
Got a big one. Great way to start the year.
So, everybody out there who listens to this knows what embedded insurance is, knows about embedded insurance, has heard all about it, has heard all the hype about embedded insurance. But have you heard from a company that actually does it and does it well?
No, I think that's probably a time that we should be doing. I think we should do that now.
We had the opportunity to have Matheus Riolfi on from Tint. Tint is an embedded player, super successful across a number of different verticals, and they've done it with discipline and creativity and panache. And we got to hear their story today. And I'll say this before we have Matheus on. Before I was like, embedded, okay. But now I'm a big embedded fan.
It's huge. It's huge. And it might not have gotten as big as fast as we thought it was. Would get there maybe 5 years ago. We thought it'd be a little bigger, but it's on the up and coming. And I think it's something that we have to keep our eye on and be in the know on. And their group Tint is doing some amazing things. They're connecting companies and carriers, and they're the technology, and they're bringing them together and making these relationships. And it's
Right.
working. It's working.
So instead of hearing us talk for another year, why don't we get to our talk with Matheus Riolfi, the CEO and co-founder at Tint. Hey, everybody, we're here with a special guest, our first guest of 2025. Is that right, Lee?
Yeah, that is right. This is the first one.
The first one, let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. In our 7th year of doing the podcast, is that
a long
possible?
time? That's a long time, Rob.
Possible? Which is hard because I'm only 8 years old. And
I know, you're aging
awesome.
us.
That's awesome. And so to kick it off appropriately, we have the CEO and co-founder of Tint with us today. And I'm going to try this. Be patient with me. Matheus Riolfi.
That's right.
How'd I do?
Pretty close.
Perfect. 10 out of 10.
There we go. Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. You are coming to us today from where?
I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Las Vegas. I think you're also the first person we've ever had who lived in Las Vegas.
Is there a InsurTech infrastructure in Las Vegas?
I'm not sure if InsurTech. I have actually the founder of one of our partners lives here as well. So there's some, but I would say there's definitely a growing tech scene from people moving from particularly California to Las Vegas. And there are many VCs, many like startup founders, startup executives. So it's definitely a growing ecosystem.
What attracted you to Las Vegas?
For us was basically like a lower cost of living when compared to the Bay Area, where we lived before. Both
Yeah.
my wife and I are startup founders and running remote companies. So from our perspective, staying in the Bay Area, paying all the prices and the high cost of living there didn't make sense anymore. So we're looking for alternatives. We explored places like Austin, Miami, we no, Portland, and then when we put it all on paper, and Vegas was the top choice.
Cool.
Man,
Cool.
that's good. That's good. I've always, I mean, Vegas is a big city. It's a big city, and I always forget it. In my head, Vegas is only the strip of lights, but like there's a whole world that people do, live in Vegas. It's just fun.
It is true. The airport. The reason is the airport is right there on the strip, pretty much. So
Yes.
for mass majority of people who visit, they go from the plane to the hotels and back. And even when you go to a conference, you go directly to the conference center and back as well. But Vegas has over 2 million people in the metro area of Las Vegas when you get Henderson and the nearby cities. And the forecast is going to grow very fast. It's growing very fast and will continue to grow very fast. And I believe it should get to 3 million people by 2030 or so. So it's one of the fast growth metro areas in the United States right now.
Wow,
What
that's impressive.
what are you going to do about water? This is a little off our topic today, but I got to ask.
That's a good question. I noticed that people here and regulations are a lot more strict than California, from like how much water you can use for plants and things like that. But what I'm not a specialist in any shape or form, but what I can tell you is that we went to this museum here, and they showed the data that there's actually, even if the population grew a lot, the water consumption in Las Vegas today is lower than it was in the 90s.
Oh,
So the
wow.
city has done a lot of like water conservation efforts, and they're working. And the other thing is like Vegas is upstream in the Colorado River, so I guess maybe some folks in California will have problem with water before
Uh,
Las Vegas does.
uh,
That's
yeah.
always a fear though. Like we in Waco, we had a big drought for a year and a half, and our lake just went down and down. And I had true panic attacks over what are we gonna do? We're gonna run out of water. We won't be able to sell our house. Nobody's ever gonna want to live here. Like the whole world will stop in Waco. I would die in Vegas because I would always have that fear, especially whenever you fly in and you see that massive lake and you see how it's like dropped over all of the years. It would scare me. But you don't need to be scared. It'll be great.
Well, let's talk about something that's not scary, and
Okay.
that's tint. And uh, Matheus, if you could start off by sharing with us what tint is, what you guys do, and what's your job there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the co-founder and CEO. And what Tint does, we are an embedded insurance platform. So we help brands make insurance part of their products and service. For example, we have a partner company called Turo, who is in the car sharing space. So we provide an insurance through a partnership with Turo for their fleet owners, so they can protect their fleets while they are renting out or when they are actually not being rented out on the platform. And what we do, we work, with companies in the vacation rental space, like Guesty, on the shipping space like UShip and Montway and Alvis. And really, it's the same story. Like we help those brand partners offer insurance to their customers and services, and then we do the end-to-end solution from all the technology that is required for like policy admin, claims management software, like everything, all the way to the services that are required, including customer support, claims handling, whatever the program is necessary.
Do you run the claims side of it?
We do have, in some cases, we have in-house claims teams that they can run claims in some cases. And in others, we partner with TPAs or our insurance partners can handle the claims as well. The way we see ourselves, we see our platform as modular. So we can have the different partners, the different insurance partners, choose what parts they want to use from our platform, depending on their own needs, their expertise.
Yeah, I saw in your perhaps your website that it said that you guys don't look at your part as the product, right? That's what your customer is selling. You're an addition. You're an add-on to that. Is that, am I thinking about that properly?
Yeah, that's right. And it depends on the use case. And our vision, and I think it's the idea of the embedded insurance in general. Our vision is that insurance should be a feature and not a product, a standalone product. Like, we believe that the best customer experience is when insurance comes with what like a product you're buying, a service you're using. Because most customers, we all love insurance for many reasons, but most consumers actually don't. Um, so the way we see and the way we try to solve that, and instead of like having spending a lot of money in marketing trying to build a consumer brand, why don't we all get the insurance uh, to the customers through the brands that they love, through the services they use, because it's a much better customer experience. And for the brands, it's basically additional revenue with zero acquisition cost, because they already have that customer. They already have paid to acquire the customer. So they have to your point, the add-on insurance kind of fees and revenues on top of what their core business is already doing. And in addition to making more money, their core business, or their core product gets better. So think about Turo being an example. Imagine they don't have any insurance. And then you're required to call your insurance agent every time you want to rent a car. It doesn't really work. Or another partner we have, like Guesty, they're in the vacation rental space. So imagine now that you want to put your house out there, but you're concerned about the risks that may happen on top of it that are not covered by your homeowner's insurance. The easiest way for you to get the protection is through the software that you're already using to manage your rental. They're already using to manage cleaning. Is just another piece. Insurance is just another piece of your normal workflows. So that's why we are a strong believer in embedded insurance, and we think this is going to be one of the largest parts of insurance in the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about embedded insurance for years, and I'm sure we'll go into more detail on that. So tell me, who is your customer? Is your customer the vacation rental company? Is it the carrier? Who are you working with to put all this together?
Yeah, we see ourselves almost like a two-sided marketplace, because in a sense, we match our brand partners and their customers on one side with carriers on the other side. So Tint is not a carrier. We're not building a carrier. We are more like a broker or a orchestrator of this entire story. We are a licensed broker in all U.S. States. So, and we typically see our main kind of like side of our platform, the brands, because this is where I would say the bottleneck is today, right? We're trying to get more and more brands to be aware and see the value to their customers. And we believe, and we prove that in many ways, that when you have a great partner with a great risk, it's not that hard to find carriers, right? Because if you can provide profitable new risks to carriers, that there will be, with 5,000 carriers in the United States, there will be somebody who will be interested. And we've seen that. We have typically, for our best programs, like multiple carriers who are interested, and then we can either do a panel or sometimes just select one part.
Sure.
Who is it? Who's underwriting this? I mean, in my head, embedded insurance is kind of a fixed rate, right? You're gonna get your Airbnb, it's $500 a night, and we're gonna do X amount per. Is that how embedded insurance works, or is it based on more criteria than that?
It can be as simple as what you described, but one of the beauties of embedded insurance is that the amount of data that those brands have on the consumers, on the use cases, is like on order of magnitude like larger than what you would get in a standard insurance application. So what we can do is like by partnering with those brands, by getting access to some of their data, we can do pre-underwriting, we can do risk screening, we can do sophisticated pricing, even before the customer gets a quote. So one of the beauties of embedded is that it allows a much better risk pricing, risk selection than you would expect in a blanket in a blanket insurance product. So what we're seeing is that typically at launch the rates are relatively simple and they
Okay.
can use 1, 2, 3 factors. But as the program matures and it gets at scale, you can segment with like 5, 10, 20 variables and do pricing this way.
One of the things that I'm interested in is the just the market size and figuring out. I'm sure you guys are thinking about all this all the time. What's a new use case out there? Like, for example, you mentioned Turo, which is essentially car rental. And I mean, we're all used to that, and we've seen that application of embedded for many, many years, where you rent a car and they give you the option. Would you like to add insurance at the time of when you pick up the vehicle? But I'm sure that you guys are thinking way past car rental. I mean, that's just one use. And I know you do shipping and other things. There's certain areas that are simple to understand. How do you go about that, and where have you made an impact? What markets have you made an impact in, and where else, and where do you see growth?
Yeah, so we've seen we've seen over 15 different use cases in our platform, from things that are like more standard, like what you mentioned, all the way to very innovative use cases. Like, for example, we worked with a company called QuantStamp, which was doing insurance for deposits in decentralized financial platforms. For example, if you invested $100,000 in one of those DeFi platforms, and you got it, like in the insurance protects you from hacking. So what this company did is that they are the gold standard for auditing those platforms. So they know better than anybody else the risks of each of those different protocols. So they could provide their the stamp of approval and then put some money in to insure the deposits if you bought their protection. That's an example of a very kind of innovative use case. But what we've seen is that in embedded insurance, at least in our experience, the use cases that work the best are the ones that, like, even though they are standard, like to your point, car rental, they come with a different twist. Or even instead of like focusing current, let's think about the vacation rental one for a second. Like, homeowners insurance has always existed, but when you are renting out on a property at Airbnb, or especially if you now own 10 properties and you're renting them out on Airbnb, there are very important gaps on the homeowner's policy that, because it now is a commercial transaction, you're not covered by most of the risks that happen there caused by the guest. So that what happened is that an entire new ecosystem of insurance was developed to just work on this coverage. And while we don't have the precise numbers, I imagine there are hundreds of millions of dollars of premium that are being transacted in this relatively niche space. So what embedded does is that it allows those niche coverages that couldn't exist before now because now that you can have the data that you need to understand those risks from the brand partners, but you also have like a zero acquisition cost channel, so you can provide that that coverage in an affordable price. So from our perspective, that's kind of we call intrinsic risks. So every time there's an innovative coverage, innovative risk that is part of the intrinsic work of a platform, you can create embedded insurance products. Like we don't like as much, let's say, standard auto. Like, I can give you a standard auto, but you can also open Google and find another 100 quotes. So there's not as much value in our point of view of those very kind of standard use cases. Beauty is on this kind of constellation of niche use cases, all at tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of premium each, and in the future billions as well. that can now exist because of embedded insurance.
Do you guys, does your group, does your product, maybe product people, do they find those things, or do you find that potential customers are coming to you and saying, hey, here's this crazy thing that we do, can we get involved together?
We have both cases. So we have an active marketing and sales team that is knocking on doors, going to conferences, and finding partners in the verticals that we prioritize. But we also have like a constant flow of inbound leads, and some of them, things that are very different from what we do. We heard, drone insurance. We heard like crop insurance and then blockchain and things like that. So while I think embedded is still in its infancy, there is like now very strong proof from Tint and other companies in the space that there are like dozens, if not hundreds, of use case that will work in the embedded space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think embedded is growing? I know that, we just talked about there's lots and lots of things. Is it becoming more acceptable to the population to just expect that there could be some embedded insurance on something that you're getting online?
Yes. And this is something, again, our company grew over 7 times last year.
Wow.
And we are not the only ones. I think the market, from what we can talk with other partners and competitors, is really picking up. So I do think that as any innovation, I think about from an insurance perspective, embedded is really the biggest innovation since insurance was created. The way if you think about embedded, it's not only a distribution change, as I mentioned. Now you have the brand partner, you have a lot more data, the roles of like who's selling what, how it really changes. So in our view, this is really the biggest transformation in insurance since Lloyd's of London invented the model. So big changes like that, they take time, right, to materialize. I think the name embedded insurance coined, I want to say, about 5 years ago. So from an insurance perspective, it's not that old. But I see where you're coming from. They're like, many people thought that embedded by now would be bigger.
Mhm.
But we definitely seen, especially last year, an acceleration of interest and across the board. And we expect this year to be as strong, if not stronger, than last year.
It's great. I mean, 7x is anybody would be happy with that, or most would be. What is the friction for embedded that keeps it from being 14x?
Yeah. In our experience, it's about how can you make it very easy for your partners to adopt you. And a big part
Sure.
of this is the technology, right? So we obviously, when you're selling through a partner, those are companies who they're not licensed agents. So you must be able to offer that insurance, collect payments, do all the servicing. And right now we created like a lot of our last year kind of product investments were to make a product like truly plug and play. So today, any brand, they can get started in a couple of hours and start offering our products. And this is something that it wasn't as easy because there's a lot of like technology, a lot of systems behind the scenes to like do a very streamlined like quoting process that is not overly demanding on the policyholder, that leverages like if you're doing a quote, and Rob, if you go through one of our partners, you don't want me to ask who you are again. You don't want me
Right.
to get your address. In the case of Turo, for example, some of our customers have hundreds of cars in their fleets. So you don't want me to ask make, model, year, and VIN for every single of them. And the beauty of the technology is that allows just that. Today, if you are a host at Turo, when you give Turo the consent and you show the interest, we can read your data. By the time you get your quote, I have all your cars, makes, model, year, VINs, photos, all the pricing calculated. All you need to do is review and say, yes, I want. I have your address. I have your billing information. We just put your payment method, and you're good. Your policy is bound. Compare that with you calling an agent and really reciting hundreds of makes and models a year, and how much how error prone this process is. So it's a long way of saying that we believe that the technology is really maturing to the point that that's kind of magical experiences can become the norm, and it's very easy for the partners to implement, and it's very easy for their customers to buy those products.
That's to me the key is that it's like when you buy an airline ticket and you've gone through all the windows and you get to the end basically, and it says, "Hey, do you want a flight and travel insurance? Yes or no?"
Yeah.
Click box, right?
Exactly. And the reality is that in most use cases, the experience is not as simple as that, or was not as simple as that, right? So you have a perfect example. Like travel is one that is known, is popular, and somewhat mature embedded insurance use case. But for most use cases, not the case. So again, I mentioned the three verticals that we are now focusing on are mobility, the vacation rentals or home sharing. And the last one is transportation logistics. So we have some cargo products. The reality is that for all of those, commercial auto, home sharing, and cargo, applications are still manual. They're still being done by phone. So having that, like making that a seamless application within our brand partner in a way that is not too taxing on them to make that integration,
Right.
it's a big technical challenge. And I think that's the part that I believe the industry underestimated. They thought it would be super easy, and it's not. There are a lot of things when I talk about us ingesting data from thousands of vehicles and displaying quotes, that it's things can that they're more complex. There might be errors and a lot of other things that you need to fix. So I believe that a part of it is that as many of those kind of very hard innovations, it takes time for the technology to be in a place where you can scale very quickly, and we believe that we are there today.
And I would think the success of embedded insurance really relies on the amount of data that you can collect. Good, clean, readable, connectable data. And I think about mobility and autos, how so many people are sending their telematics up to different sites. Like I think Credit
Yes.
Karma at one time was kind of creating a driver report, and you have all these things. I mean, at the same time, you have privacy concerns and people a little nervous about all their data that they're collecting and they're freely giving. I mean, I guess you kind of got to do a dance between there, but we can take the first question of, am I right that you have to have the data to truly be able to offer the embedded insurance?
Yes, because the data, as I mentioned, will do two things for you. One, a great customer experience. So the code's pre-filled, you don't have to go over it again. And the second, and I would say as important, is that it allows products that couldn't exist before. So again, going back to the Turo example, now what the product we offer is really let's call it a simplified commercial auto. What we know is that those fleets are spending most of their time on the Turo, being rented out on the Turo platform, covered by Turo's insurance. So I can offer a cheaper, simplified commercial auto product, and it still be sound underwriting wise, because I have data from Turo when the car is on their platform versus when the exposure is on our policy. So that's a perfect example of this product cannot exist without this deep integration into the Turo platform, because if you don't know how much the car is being used, you probably don't have any price advantage over what large carriers will do in the commercial auto side. So yeah, I think that's the data. It really makes this entire story work.
Has your business model evolved? I mean, you're around like 8 years, correct? 7, 8 years now.
Yes, we started almost 7 years ago.
So that makes you in the embedded world, an old timer.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure, and obviously, I know that you guys came out of Turo, right? You and your co-founder came out of Turo. So you had those connections,
Mhm.
and you saw a need there. Um, but as you've grown and as the world has developed in these years since then, how's your business model evolved?
Yeah, well, I think as any, I would say startup, we had a very clear vision from the first days, but I would say we had a lot of trial and error on our execution. So this product that we're selling on the embedded insurance platform that I mentioned, that we're selling today, it's about 3 years old, right? So it's a product that we start investing on this about for 3 years. Before that, I think our story was a bit different, and we were really trying to find like what are the applications, what are the products that we can that are data driven, that leverage our DNA as a technologists who got into the insurance space. So what are the fastest way to grow that? So I think we had a couple of now pivots and changes until we found really the product that we were seeing working now and seeing all the growth. And I would say it's a very common path for most startups.
And one of the interesting things to me about what the products that you guys are doing is it's kind of it's transactional, right? I mean, it has a very short life to it, relatively speaking. People aren't signing up for insurance for a year frequently. It's for an event or for a few days. Is that right?
Yes and no, because we do have some examples like that. For example, we have a shipping protection product that is you're gonna ship a car, you want to get insurance with it. That's it. To your point, it lasts for a couple of days while your car is in transit, and that's it. But we do have other products. I mean, the Turo product is an annual product. The fleet owners, this is effectively their main commercial auto insurance policy. In the vacation rental space as well, it's an annual policy because it covers the property or the properties that the property manager has for the full year. The pricing is usage based. They only pay what they consume. So in the case of property management, is the number of nights that they are renting out, but the policy itself, it's annual.
Okay, interesting. So you're having customers who are with you regularly.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes, month over month, and then we have a lot of interaction with them throughout the policy period.
I did see online that, and I believe it was recently that y'all had a nice uh, round of funding that came in. Is that right? Did I read that right?
We did raise a nice round of funding. It was closed in January of 2022. So
Oh, okay.
now a few years ago. But then to your point, it was a $25 million Series A, which was larger than an average Series A. So it
Yeah.
was definitely a very successful.
And things are going well. Like you're on a trajectory, 7 times growth. I mean, that's great. That's great. What does the future hold for the company there?
Yes, we definitely know. Last year has been a special year for us, and really thank the team for all the hard work and our partners for um, getting us there. This year we expect the fast growth to continue. The part as we discussed because we believe that embedded insurance is the adoption of embedded insurance is accelerating, and then internally we built our platform to be use case agnostic. So as long as it's within PNC, we can launch any product. So this year we expect to launch a few new products in new verticals to accelerate our growth even further.
I would think I'm very interested in your relationship with the carriers. Um, is your relationship like an MGA to a carrier?
For the most part, no. For the most part, we are the broker. So, for example, we have some relationships with some syndicates at Lloyd's of London and some US-based insurer. And I think, say, for the majority of our products, we are broker. We have an active role in co-designing those products. We can provide a lot of underwriting expertise and insight based on the data that we're seeing from our customers, based on our experience. but we can, just as a broker, we get a product from a licensed carrier. There are some cases though when are spaces that we really want to invest and we know very deeply that we can play the MGA role. So, for example, one of our public partnerships with the insurance side with a company called RVI. We had a press release a few months ago. It's a part of Group 1001 or the Guggenheim Financial Group, and they are a reinsurer. So for the most part, whenever we partner with them, there is no fronting carrier, and we play a lot of the MGA role. But I would say for the majority of our business, and I'd say going forward, we can be the broker because it's the fastest path to scaling.
I would think from what we know about carriers, Lee and I, which is either a lot or you could fit in a thimble, one of the two. That there would be a lot of excitement on the carrier side to get involved with a lot of the different, maybe not all, and like you've said, different carriers have different interests in different products,
different appetites.
Right, different appetites, but that there would be a lot of excitement around this. Is that what you found, that kind of reception?
Yes, it is, right. Part of our job is to speak with all those carriers and attend some like an insurer focus conference. We're talking about ITC. We are regulars at ITC and have a booth, and we are sponsors and everything. So we talk with carriers. I think generally there is some excitement. I think what I like, and I think you mentioned that you were in the very first early ITCs. What I like about the insurtech ecosystem, and it has evolved, where now the insurtechs, they're no longer talking about disruption and kind of replacing carriers.
Right.
They're talking about partnering. And we see that, and we saw that last year because we had a lot more brokers and large brokers and carriers approaching us because they are also thinking about partnerships. And we obviously very open to it. As I mentioned, we are not a carrier. We are not a risk-bearing entity, and we will never be. So we are always welcoming innovative underwriters and carriers who can partner with us.
When I was first reading about you, my thought was, well, they're brokers, right? Because you have the carrier on one side, and then you guys sit there, and then but the thing that's different about you is you're selling to another commercial entity, who's then selling it to maybe another commercial entity or an individual. I would think more commonly. And so that's a little bit of a unique spot in the insurance value chain.
Yeah, we are tech enabled, so a lot of the value we provide is on the technology side. Is like in order to orchestrate these relationships, you need like a very streamlined technology, otherwise the experience breaks. But you're absolutely right that we orchestrate the relationships, and what we found is that you can create a lot of value doing so because most of the carriers, even the ones who made a lot of investments in technology, they may or may not be getting the return they expected by now. And they are very good in things we are not going to invest. So that's why it's really a perfect case for a partnership.
Do they get involved with your customer who's selling the product? Is there a relationship there? Are they giving them input and saying, "Why don't you try this? Maybe you'll sell more policies"? I mean, is there interaction there?
There might be. I think it depends on the use case. Thinking as a general principle, we are absolutely in favor of this. We don't see our value being gatekeeper or between the two sides. I think it's quite the opposite. I think whenever the insights are streamlined, everybody is better off. It's going to be a better product for consumers. They will buy more. Everybody in the chain will benefit. So we encourage this. But in some cases, the carriers don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
But whatever they do, we are absolutely in favor of that.
So before we go, I just want to turn back the clock a little bit to whatever year it was, 2015, 2016. It's amazing that 2015 was 10 years ago.
Yes.
Um, um, so you and your partner, you're working at Turo.
hmm
What was your job there?
I was running the international expansion. So I launched the business in Canada and in Europe. And, I was spending 80% of my time talking with insurers. So I made I closed the partnerships in Canada with Intact at the time. In Europe, we ended up working with Allianz. And my co-founder was the head of data science. So he was working on the underwriting models that Turo uses in its insurance. So we both got to, insurance from a very different angle.
Uh-huh. And one day you guys are having a beer and you're like, this is a problem.
Yeah, we saw the both sides of the coin, right? The first is how much potential insurance had within a tech company, right? So none of us joined a tech company based in San Francisco expecting to be working in insurance, but we
Sure.
saw the power of insurance to really enable the business model, enable the company's profitability. But we also saw how hard it was to do everything in-house without help. It was incredibly painful to get product resources to build policy admin or claims management systems or even integrate with existing ones because none of this is part of the core business. And as a fast growth tech company, there's so many items that are already on the roadmap. So we saw how hard it was. And that's really was kind of what got us inspired. Like Tint is really the company we wish existed when we were building those products at Turo back in the day.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You would have reached out to Tint.
I would absolutely use Tint. Yes.
Turo, I find Turo to be a very interesting idea, right? And basically it's Airbnb for your car.
Yeah.
Right. But I could see how in a situation like that, I mean, it has to be insurance enabled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because who's gonna participate in that as an owner of a vehicle unless they have some kind of coverage?
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you think about, Turo, obviously it's a easy to grasp example because of they are then a consumer company. You have the precedent of car rental insurance. But if you think about like most of the no, insurance is a big part of the workflows in many industries, right? Like again, we talked
Right.
about transportation, construction. Like you just can't run a construction product without insurance, and that's true across many different ones. So we believe that that's what the beauty of embedded insurance. Like this, somebody somewhere, it's already buying insurance for their construction. Wouldn't be much better if this is part of the experience in the software where they are managing their staff or they're managing the other like materials or other parts of the construction product to just have a very easy access to insurance so they can just like get it and then and be done. So that's why again we think it's a much better customer experience.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. And so when you look out over the next several years, both for Tint and as a member of the embedded ecosystem, what advances or what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to again seeing most of the insurance use case be embedded, be part of the workflows that the customer is already doing they in whatever their software platform of choice. So I'm seeing now the first like a much better, like convenient experience. But I think what Lee mentioned or talked before in terms of the data, I also want to see innovative, tailor-made insurance products that don't exist today. That today again, most of the auto or home or other products are mass market products. I really want to see embedded, providing so much data and so about the different use cases, so you can have a much more like targeted coverage at a fair pricing. And yeah, we think that all can happen. It's just a matter of time.
Last question. Can you see embedded making an impact like with homeowners or auto for directly for auto owner?
Yeah. I think it will depend on how much can the auto manufacturers or the places in the ecosystem, like how much they can leverage what they have for this product. So, for example, Tesla. Tesla is a good example of no. If Tesla can really leverage all their data, I can believe they can provide a better product than most insurers for Tesla owners. And they already, again, I don't have any details on how well they're doing, but at least the idea, it's there. But if you see a world where Toyota, Honda, General Motors, that like all those companies start to really dedicate time and resources to leverage what they have, the insights they have, the telematics of their cars, I can see a world where we can have much better auto products. A world that I don't see working as well is that, say, GM doesn't want to do anything different and they just want to sell you a Geico policy when you're buying a car. Like that, I'm not sure is going to work because, again, you can get a Geico policy anywhere. And if the price is the same, its condition is the same, I don't see why that would work. So it will depend on how the brand partners and the carriers will apply those innovative data points to like mass market product.
Yeah, we used to. So Lee and I come from the claims side in the P&C world, and but we used to work for an insurer that that set up an office or of sorts in the sales office of a new home construction, development.
Yeah.
So when you're buying a house,
Yeah.
you could buy, I mean, it was kind of an early, it's basically what you do. It was just, we didn't call it that then. It was like, oh, cool. They have an office in their office.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what you all have done. You put your office on the website.
That's right. That's the goal, is to put that in every single technology platform where insurance is a part of the workflow, right? When people will sooner or later need insurance before either traveling or doing something that they want to do, buying a product that they are looking for, or getting the job done in case of companies who are running fleets or housing or other things.
Well, we really appreciate your time today, and because we now know so much about your life in Las Vegas, the next time we're there, you're going to have to show us a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah, just let me know.
Not on the strip.
No pressure. No
off
pressure.
the strip.
Yeah, I don't know the strip so well, so I can't tell you. I'll have I'll be a much better host, showing you the off trip,
Cool.
normal resident Las Vegas experience.
We'll look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
you.
for being on.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Before this, two things.
Mhm.
One is I realize we've had other embedded companies on before,
Yeah, we
right? But we
Yeah.
just didn't call them that, and they didn't call themselves that.
have.
Number
No, they
one.
did not.
And number two is, after that, I love embedded.
Embedded is where it's at.
It's where it's at.
It's where it's at. And in my head, I have a small mind, right? I have a small mindset for embedded, that it can only be on, travel. It can only be on this. But that kind of expanded my mind to where it could go. If you have the data and you don't have to ask more questions, and you can offer a service that they're already looking for, it's a great fit.
Right.
It's
Correct.
exciting times.
Absolutely. Big thanks to Matheus. It was and for making the time to talk to us, and a big thanks to you, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
2025. And
New Year.
and thanks to Al, Big Al. Hey Al, thank you.
Thank
Our
you, Al.
producer, without whom which you wouldn't be hearing this. And Happy New Year. And we'll see you on the next episode of F&O InsurTech. And until then,
Goodbye, everybody.